Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Delve Deep Namibia annual panel discussion for 2022. I have the privilege of being your host. My name is Augetto Graig, and today we have a very distinguished panel to uncover the intricacies of mining and extraction in Namibia. We'll start off introducing Mr. Environmental Commissioner Timotheus Mufeti. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
Thank you. And we also have the Petroleum Commissioner Maggy Shino. Good day, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening. And with us also from the Chamber of Mines of Namibia, their Chief Economist, Lauren Davidson. Good day.
Hi, Augetto.
Hi, Lauren. And with us on the far side is Standard Bank Namibia's Head of Corporate and Investment Banking, Mr. Nelson Lucas. Good day, Nelson.
Good day.
Thank you. And also joining us remotely all the way from Ois is AfriTin Tin Mines Mining Manager, Mr. Ephraim Tourob. Good day, Ephraim.
Good evening, sir. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. We're going to go for a short break and then jump right into it. Stay with us. And welcome back. Jumping right into it, I will set my first question for Environmental Commissioner Mr. Timotheus Mufeti. Sir, what is the cost of mining and oil extraction to the natural environment in Namibia?
Thank you very much for the question. Definitely, mining activities have got impact on our environment. Definitely by the nature of the activities of the mining, we are working on natural environment. The resources that we are many times extracting, they are under the ground, which means we need to open up, we need to alter the environment, we need to dig, and this is not a natural environment. It was not created to be like that. And that's the impact of the activity that we see happening because of the mining activities. And through all our laws and our legislation, this is how we are trying to see how do we minimize, because we know the impact will be there. That is a negative impact. But then we look at positive impact of the mining, because environment, we are only not talking about the physical part of the environment, we are talking about the people, talking about the economy. And this is all integrated into the environment. So we have got negative, we have got positive, and now this is the issues that we need to deal with. But importantly, I think is the question of why do we do mining? What do we want? We need those resources to maintain our livelihood. We need them to maintain life. We need them to keep our economy. We need them to maintain our livelihood for our people to get the benefit. But then the negative part of the environment, I think that is a complex nature of the mining activity that different sectors, including us, we are trying to manage. But from the environmental point of view, we want to make sure that whatever negative impact they are mitigated, things are rehabilitated, the resources are not overutilized, because we need to think about the future. And this is given in our constitution, and this is what Environmental Management Act is all about.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And let me also pose that question to you, Mashino, the Petroleum Commissioner. Is it necessarily so that whenever we are extracting oil, be it from on land or under the oceans, that there's going to be a destruction of environment?
Definitely not a distraction. I think
The petroleum sector, the petroleum industry, is one of the least invasive extraction methodology that you can have as a method of mining or producing any resources from the ground. When we extract oil or when we produce oil from the ground, we have the process of drilling a well and extracting the product or the crude oil from that well or the natural gas that you find comes because of a pressure difference between the resources as it's kept in the ground within a high pressure environment, and when you open, you make a hole similar to drilling for water, then the product will come out. The nature or the footprint of this activity to the environment is so minimal. Even putting together into consideration of the infrastructures that you need to be able then to carry the product away from where you are producing it. It also just happened that the environment also that we work in within, whether it's onshore, whether it's offshore, what matters then is the methodology that you're going to utilize to produce it. If for example, offshore, usually you have floating production facilities which are not even embedded within the environment. But the Namibian government, our policies and our law have encompassed all the sensitivity of the environment that we deal with, because we deal with a product that is physical, and usually when it hasn't been handled properly can cause a mighty effect to the environment. And that's why you find in our law, in our legislation, and our petroleum agreement, when we issue a license that encompasses that you're going to produce this, you're going to explore for this product, you're going to produce it, and then once you have produced it, you have to restore the environment to its pristine system or way it was. Therefore, that's why our process involves us monitoring the production in terms of also right from the beginning, already setting out plans for how you are going to decommission and how you're going to restore the environment. And therefore, and having then the health, the safety, and the environmental aspect as an integral part of your activity makes it possible for the mining or the petroleum sector to be one of that has its processes well managed and being able to be kept in a way that we can have the minimalist impact to the environment possible when we are doing extractions.
Excellent, excellent. And Lauren, can you tell us from the point of view of the Chamber of Mines, which represents the whole industry here in Namibia, and especially from economics, the cost to the environment of mining, is it taken into consideration? How do you deal with it?
Well, from a Chamber of Mines point of view, when we mine minerals from the ground, it is accepted that there is going to be structural damage to the environment. That is the nature of mining, and that is what it is. The cost is varied. So the cost of mining would be the opportunity cost of that area potentially being used for agriculture or tourism or something else. And that obviously varies according to the size of the mineral deposit, so that depends on its characteristics, and also the processing techniques and so forth. So that will vary from deposit to deposit. From a cost in terms of rehabilitation point of view, that will also vary. So, for example, it's going to be the cost of rehabilitation is going to be different for an open pit mining operation as compared to your marine mining. Yes. So, but luckily there are as the Environmental Commissioner alluded to, there are laws in place that make the mines, ensure that the mines restore the environment as close to possible as its natural state. Yes.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Mr. Lucas, can you give us some insight as to how the cost to the environment of mining influences the financing of mining and even the expenses that mines run up day to day?
So I think the starting point would be to look at regulations, the relevant laws, the relevant policies that the mining institutions would need to adhere to. Obviously, coming back off those a starting point from a law and regulatory perspective. These laws, bring in relevant considerations in ensuring that an environment needs to be rehabilitated or even restored, to its initial form or state before any mining activities had taken place. So that comes obviously with a cost. And definitely those relevant costs would need to be factored into from a financing perspective and also from an expense perspective. So definitely there isn't an exact science where there is a 10% of the whole, let's say, mining project. As my colleague had alluded to, you get different deposits of different sizes with regards to the deposits. You get different types of mining methods, and those factors would need to be considered to ensure that you've got the right financing in place to be able to restore or rehabilitate the environment after the life.
Thank you very much. Let's go to you, Mr. Tourob, Ephraim Tourob, the mining manager of AfriTin there in Uys. Your mine, what has been the cost to the environment in Uys, and how are you addressing that cost?
Okay, thanks for the question. The procedure is as such. Before any mining license are issued to any mining operation, EMP is issued, which is a guiding document. It's an environmental management plan. And as long as we stick to the guidance that are included in that plan, we are actually executing controlled mining.
Yes.
Although with all the mining, there will be damage or disturbance to the environment. But as long as it is under the controlled environment, the cost is minimal. In order for us to do that, one needs to be conscious of the area that you are living in, that you are operating in. In our case, we are in a conservancy. Most of the population around us are small miners, and the rest of the population are livestock farmers. So we are looking at this, people engaging all the stakeholders from the onset, guided by our mine closure plan, getting inputs from the communities, which makes sure that we will leave something behind for the communities, which will be of a sustainable economic income after we stand mining company. Although we are guided by the framework, government is currently busy, the Ministry of Mines and Energy. They are busy with the mine closure framework, and our mine closure plan will be guided by this framework. There will be impact, although we have learned lessons from the previous owners, which was Escort before that, and after their closure, there were activities of income for the communities that are in this area. Aquaculture was one of this in the old mining pits. The other activities which is still ongoing is the tourism activity, where people are going onto the waste dumps and they are viewing sundowners and to pet drives and all this.
Yeah.
So we are looking at that. Although the impact will be minimal, we will do all our best to do whatever the controlled environment and make sure that there is something left for the future generation to come.
Oh, that's very good news. Let's move right ahead to the next question, which is about Namibia's energy shortage, the need for power, which is something that mines use a lot of. And the question is, how has mining helped to reduce Namibia's energy shortage, and what more can be done? And I'd like to start with you, Mr. Mufeti, from the environmental point of view, especially renewable energy. Is it something that has such small environmental impact as to be negligent, or are there also risks involved with solar perhaps, or wind or other renewable energy sources?
Thank you. Definitely renewable energy is the most preferred source of energy into mining sector. It's less damaging to the environment, and then Namibia is very lucky because of our position. We have got a lot of sun, especially in our southern regions, and wind, and those are the input into generating good number of renewable energy into mining sector. And as a country, we would promote and encourage that our mining sectors impact upon renewable energy project as energy input into their operations. But definitely that's not sufficient. We still need other source of energy. The global level, we still need a long way to go, depending on fossil fuel. In Europe, we started with electrical cars. We are still opting for that option in Africa and developing countries, but that is just at the starting point. So we need now to utilize all the energy mix that we have available. We cannot say drop this one and migrate to this one because it takes time and it comes naturally. And we are not yet there. But as a Minister of Environment, we encourage that we utilize renewable energy as much as possible because that is less damaging to environment. And we are lucky as a country that we have those resources available.
Excellent, thank you, sir. And let's move straight ahead to you, Ms. Shino. And of course, petroleum being a very important source of energy. And this year we had the good news of finding some. But do you think that it's going to make a difference to Namibia's energy needs?
Definitely, the Namibian energy landscape is going to change significantly with the production of the crude that we have just discovered. With the recent discovery from the Venus and the Graph well in the deep water Orange Basin, once we reach that stage of being able to produce, this will move Namibia or change Namibia from being a net energy importer to be a net and also an energy exporter. But not only the export of crude oil or natural gas that's going to produce, what we are also looking at taking in, moving now from what Mr. Mufeti has just said in terms of the energy mix and the issue of energy transition. We're looking at a time where the sector need to be more conscious of our contribution to the climatic change and the greenhouse emission. And with the production of the best discovery that we have always had in Namibia, for example, is the kudu gas, which is a natural gas. We have about 1.3 TCF of gas that's available for us to utilize. And with more infrastructure now coming on board, with more discoveries that are being made, the ability for us to be able to make an economic investment to be able to produce that gas is now here. So it's our approach that now with the new discoveries, we are then going to be able to utilize the natural gas as a more environmentally friendly resource, as fossil fuel that we can use. For example, for gas to power, we're going to be able to produce, also contribute to the new energy technology, new energy that are in demand, which with the production of blue hydrogen, take into consideration that we first start with green, and then with the natural gas we can produce blue hydrogen, and then move then further into any other derivatives that we're going to be able to use and change then the landscape of the energy need for Namibia. So because of these elements that we have, energy poverty is a serious case in Namibia, and only our chance right now stands hinging right on the petroleum sector to be able to move then the country and its economy from being dependent on importing energy and being able to have enough energy for us to utilize, and also then be able to export for us to earn revenues
Thank
from
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Lauren, can you tell us, what Ms. Shino was saying was based on technological advances, and the mines in Namibia have really been instrumental in helping to develop renewable energy technologies here. Can you give us a bit of an overview of what the mines have done and what they might still do in the future?
Well, I wouldn't say they have helped to develop the technologies as such. Those
Okay.
are coming from the renewable energy service providers themselves.
Yes.
But the mines support the use of renewable energies, especially since a lot of mines now are working towards carbon neutrality and actually just minimizing their carbon footprint and also reliance on fossil fuels. So there have been a number of mines that have actually invested in solar power in Namibia. And NAMDEB also supported the establishment of the wind farm down in Lüderitz. So there's been a lot of investment by the operations into renewable energy. And not just that, but they're also looking at how they can use new technologies now in the machinery and equipment that is green. So also moving away from fossil fuels. So that's really how they've embraced that and taken on, renewable, but also green energy as well.
Yes, excellent. Let's move right on. Mr. Lucas, Lauren was talking about the investment, and how does that play into investment decisions that especially players like Standard Bank make when deciding who to provide financing to?
No, quite important. Quite an important point. I mean, it's quite topical. I think we've seen what the global agenda looks like quite recently in terms of trying to reach those net zero targets. So obviously when these decisions are made from an investment perspective, it needs to make sense in the long run.
Yes.
I mean, cost reduction is quite important. Shareholder return needs to happen as well. So those are some of the factors that I've definitely taken into account. I mean, quite recently we've seen the modified single buyer model being also introduced, where it allows the transmission customers to be able to purchase. Quite recently you've seen the modified single buyer model coming through, where the transmission customers are able to actually purchase up to 30% of their energy requirements from private generators. So having said that, that is actually quite beneficial, and it allows quite a lot of appetite for investment in that space as well, for generators to be able to generate quite economically, and for mines to actually tap into those opportunities and into that sphere as well.
Excellent. Before we go to a break, let's just quickly go to Mr. Tourob. Are you there in Uis? Can you tell us about meeting your energy requirements at AfriTin's mine, what you're doing now and what you will do in the future?
Okay, thanks for the question. Currently, we are relying on the national grid. As the Environmental Commissioner was actually alluded to, we are blessed in Namibia with wind and sun.
I think we're having a bit of a sound issue there with that connection from Mr. Tourob. I think perhaps we should just go to our commercial break, which is scheduled to happen any minute now, and then we can pick it up again as soon as we come back. Thank you very much. Stay with us.